Wandering through the great plains of life, things move fast, sometimes a blur. Don't you let this bumpy road separate you from the herd. And when you think the day is done, the sun is getting low, we're all looking for something rare, the great white buffalo. The Great White Buffalo Podcast with Ben Mayfield.
Welcome to another episode of the Great White Buffalo Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Mayfield. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I made it 3 syllables. Yeah. But Mayfield. I don't think, this is Mayfield.
Yeah, there you go.
But I made it 3 because I'm better than that, you know? Nathan Dickens. Sydney. Oh, you only have 1 syllable last name. Loser. Anyways, welcome to another episode of the Great White Buffalo Podcast. If you haven't already, we're on YouTube. As of today, we have 98 subscribers, which means we only need 2 more. That's how you do math. To get to triple digits, 100.
Do you get monetized at that point?
No, I get monetized when I get to 1,000.
Okay.
And so less than a month.
There.
Yeah, we're getting there. So I'm getting to 100. Less than a month of us being on YouTube. I feel like that's 10% there for a month.
Yeah.
And we keep rolling. In fact, the other day on Wednesday, shout out to my girl Sarah Kate. We were at Zaxby's and we were chit-chatting, and she brought up a story that I told on the podcast, an episode that she was not on. It was an episode with me, you, and Jake. And I talked about the story with me and the doctor checking out the poison ivy, and she just thought it was hilarious. And I was like, I didn't know she listened to the podcast when she wasn't on it, or someone like she knew. She always listens to Sydney's episodes. So
sweet.
That was just really cool. And I think, stuff like that, people start listening and getting momentum. People are sharing it all the time. So it's just a really cool podcast, and I think we're going to keep growing and growing. So if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and comment if you can. We really appreciate that. To my right, you know him, you love him. He's irresistible with his looks, his brains, and his emotional spectrum that he has. He has the coolest shoes in the game today, and he has a cool hat. I kind of like that hat style. I don't think I can pull it off. My head's too big. It's Mr. Nathan Dickens. How are you, Nathan?
I'm great. How you doing?
Tell us about the shoes. What's the story?
The shoes are Asics. I love Asics, and they are my street running shoes. I have my trail running shoes, but these are what I run in outside.
On the street. He's a man of the streets.
I'm a man of the street. What can I say?
Did you run today, though?
I did not. It was raining like crazy, so I decided
But you were
not to.
prepared to.
I was prepared to.
And that's half the battle.
And I thought about going to the gym, and then I said no. So.
You know what? You made a decision.
2 L's.
And I respect that. No. 2 L's make a W. And you, sir, are a W.
I don't know how that works.
LL. W, bro.
Look at that. You see that?
Yo,
Y'all need to subscribe to the YouTube to be able to see that.
Yeah. Magic. And to my left, backed by popular demand. I mean,
don't say that.
2s and 3s of people asked me to get her back on this podcast. She's so popular.
You're going to boost my ego. Don't say that.
Okay. 2s and 3s.
No one wanted me back.
That's not true. It's Miss Sydney Smith. How are you, Sydney?
I'm so good. How are you?
I am fantastic. And every time you come in here, it's a pocket full of sunshine.
Oh. I got a pocket full. I thought you were going to talk about my leg always bouncing, because I didn't realize I did that until I watched it back on YouTube, and I was like, I got to chill. Like, I'm always moving.
That's because you're full of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same thing with my legs. I move it all the time. But did y'all notice? I noticed this almost immediately. All 3 of us are wearing blue.
We are.
I didn't notice until you said it.
So what
Our
happened?
blue's almost the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this
probably
that
is.
blue's almost the same too.
This blue is closer.
Yeah.
My jacket's dark blue, but my shirt's the same blue.
Yeah.
Well, are they all from the same?
Well,
these ones probably are from the same company, right?
probably. I mean, we're probably
and then this one's very
cousins.
well, because these are both from CFUMC.
Where'd y'all buy them from, though?
I don't know. The t-shirt guy.
Custom Ink?
No. No. Is that yours? Yeah. Is that the old school one, or is that like a new one?
I really like that
is
one.
the old school.
That's the old school?
That's the old school.
I like the
I used to
hoodie.
have one. I gave it away to
Yeah.
somebody. I think.
Gotta have a hood.
I have the Wesley sweatshirt. But
You
I
do,
like,
yeah.
I like a hood.
Dude, that was so bogus. We took, was it you and Olivia?
Yeah.
Shout out to Olivia. We went to go visit Nathan before they came to North Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
and we went out to eat. It was so much fun. Nathan's talking about ministry, talking about the Lord. So fun. We get into, he gives them these sick, awesome sweatshirts, and then goes, "Sorry, Ben, I don't have one your size." And I didn't get a sweatshirt. Do you remember that?
I'll get you a sweatshirt. I don't know if you have any size right now, but I'll get you one next time we order.
I can make you one. I did make you one.
You did. She did make me a sweatshirt this year for Christmas.
I did.
I got you that Christmas gift too, didn't I?
Yes.
Okay.
You got me a
Alright.
lot of yarn.
I did, a lot of yarn, and that's a good friend. So today on the podcast, one of the things I thought we could really talk about, and I've been interested because I've been watching this TV show. I'm on like episode 4, so I'm not super know all the details, but it's the show called Hunters on Amazon Prime. I don't know if you've seen it or not. But it's about these, they say it's inspired by true events. I think they do a little bit of Hollywood exaggeration. But it's these Nazi hunters. It's like this Jewish team of 7 or 8 people. And they go and they hunt down Nazis. And this is during the late 70s, early 80s time frame. Yeah. And so they go and they find them. And then they find out these Nazis, Germans, have a little web of influence, so they're taking it down. It is a thrilling show. It's on Amazon Prime. But when I was watching that, I was like, that's a crazy job. That's these people are detectives. They're hunting. They're trying to find people who have new identities all across.
Is this like a drama type thing, or is this like a real?
No, it's a drama. It's definitely Hollywood.
Okay.
But it has inspired by true events.
Okay.
So there was an actual team that did this, but this one has a little more flair and color to it.
Yeah.
And fight scenes. They're like, okay, well, did that fight actually happen? Maybe, maybe not. But it was really cool. And not that I've ever had a job where I had to hunt down people, but I started thinking about what are some cool and creative jobs that we've had or opportunities that we got to work for a season or for a little while or even for a long time that were just awesome, that stood out to you. And why did that stick out to you? I don't know. Does that make sense? I don't know. I know that's how my brain works, and it's kind of weird.
No, you're right. I'm trying to think. My first job that I ever had was working at the outlet malls at Polo. Nothing special about that.
Yeah, just doing retail.
Yeah, just doing retail. But then I had a real quick for 2-3 weeks. I worked at Camp Glisson for the grounds crew to raise up some money because I was going to Brazil for a month.
Yeah.
So I was just David Stubblefield was still there, and he goes, "Well, you want to come work grounds crew?" And so I would go over in the morning. I'd go to the little shed when you first go into Glisson to the left, right past that first house.
Yeah.
There's a shed back there, and I'd get the gator. I'd get weed whackers. I'd get whatever I needed, and I'd go out and I would just do grounds crew stuff, which I love. That was so fun, working with my hands, doing all that. And then I worked for the Orr House that was off 52 as a restaurant.
Yeah, it's down in a hole.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun.
It is. It's down in a hole.
That was before.
Hole.
That was before debit cards and everything got really big. So all the tips were straight cash. So I never declared
and
any.
It was pretty popular. It was like a steakhouse.
It was.
They had steak. And
it was
stuff.
nice. You could get out there with $200, $300, $400 tips from a 6-hour shift. It was awesome. So that one was fun. And I worked at the McGuire House, which was their sister restaurant. It was right past, where the Baptist church is, so Shenanigans, the hotel that's right behind it, Park Place Hotel or something. Mm-hmm. They used to be, what did I say it was?
The McGuire House.
The McGuire House. And it sat maybe 30 people, and it was a little restaurant there.
I don't know. There used to be a Wiley's was too right there.
Well, Wiley's was closer up to the square, yeah. But the McGuire House was fun because
old school stuff.
There only needed to be 1 or 2 people on shift, like waiters or waitresses. Mm-hmm. And there was one night, I was 19. There was one night I was out there, and John Langford, did you know John Langford?
No.
Okay, not. John Langford, I didn't realize that I had this section that was the porch, and this couple came, and they'd been waiting there for like 20 minutes for me to even come say hey. And John came up to me and goes, dude, you have this section. Like, do you know that? And I was like, oh, no, man, I don't. And so I went out there, and the wife was looking at the menu like she was like almost scared for me because her husband was just glaring at me like I was about to get chewed out. And I walk up, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I did not know you were my section. Would you like a drink? Is there anything I could do? Whatever. And they gave me their drinks, and I was like, this guy was angry. I mean, he was pissed at me. And so I was sitting back there in the back getting their drinks, and John had just left, so I was taking over the rest of the restaurant. I was like, I gotta do something. Like I don't know what I gotta do, but I gotta soften this.
Or something?
So I should have. That would have made it worse. But I walked out, and he had a high and tight. So I was like, you know what? Maybe this is my end. Talk about the military. Ask if he was in the military. Tell him, just whatever. And so I went and I was like, sir, are you former military? Are you in the military or anything? And he's like, no. And he started talking to me, and we just started talking a little bit. Well, by the end of the night, I had pulled up a chair. They had asked me to pull up a chair. Everyone had left. The chef had left. I was just going to lock up. And I sat with them for about an hour and a half just talking about life, talking about college, talking about all this stuff. They ordered like some creme brulee stuff. I went to the back, made it for them. I just kept bringing them stuff. Like we just hung out for like 2 hours, just sitting after we had technically closed. I locked the door. We just were sitting there, just hanging out. It was awesome.
Well, that speaks to a little bit to who your personality is, though, because you've always been a person that likes to connect with people, and
it was so fun
and chit chat. So I feel like that could have benefited that person as much as it benefited you.
Maybe. And I would say one of my favorite kind of seasonal jobs that I did was when I was in college, and I reffed intramurals.
Oh, gosh.
That was just so fun.
Do you remember intramurals at North Georgia?
Terrible.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go for it.
Well, okay.
The reffing was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, that might be true. I don't know.
Yeah, the reffing was terrible, but
I just remember
it was so much fun. But
with the because we had a Wesley team that did intramurals, and I would always coach the team because I didn't.
There was one time Ben was at a basketball game, and since Ben knows every single person, and so he knew all the refs, and he was like, "Hey, I'm bringing a clipboard." He wore a tie and all that. I think it was a clip-on, didn't matter, but it was a tie, and he was like, "Hey, at one point in the game, I'm just going to start screaming. I'm going to break the clipboard. Like, don't give us like
reject us like we're a Christian organization,
unsportsmanlike." And they're like, "That's fine, totally." So the whole game, he's yelling stuff. And just no one's really listening to him. He's supposed to be the coach. No one's really listening.
I always try to do the comedy yell. I'm not trying to be like, "You suck, your mother doesn't love you." Like, I didn't say things like that. I would be like more comical of like, "I hope you crack your iPhone screen and scratch your ear."
But at some point, he like called a timeout. It wasn't even, I think we were leading. I don't even know what it was, but he was just yelling, and he called like a timeout and just broke this clipboard in half and threw it, and everyone was laughing. It was the funniest thing.
Like, are you kidding me? I did it was always like my Chris Farley, Matt Foley.
Yeah.
It's always like, are you gonna do anything about this game, ref? Like, I would just like go in this mode and it was Wilson. Shout out to Wilson Pierce. He was one of my residents at one point, and now he's like the head intramural guy. So I always had a little hookup there. Intramural is also where I slid into first base in baseball. Apparently, I did not need to do that. Intramurals is also where we won a championship in co-ed soccer. And we only did this because it was a Wesley team, but I couldn't get Wesley kids to play. No one wanted to do soccer. So this sounds terrible. I went to the international hallway, and I said, I need to recruit some players. I got a guy from Morocco, the Netherlands, a girl from France, a girl from like Ireland. Like, I got all these like players, and then there was a couple RAs who were like former soccer players, and Bo and Rhett were like former soccer players too. And so we had this team, and we won the championship. It was fantastic.
That's just being smart.
Yeah, it was being smart, dude. And they were so good. They'd be like, hello, like the ball's just like on one foot, and they're drinking coffee, and then like playing with it. I'm like, how are you doing this? And like, I played soccer since I was 1. like, I was not very good at my village. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like, how's that even possible?
was
And you're
not very
crushing
good in
it.
my village.
So, anyways.
Wasn't even it's just like where they come from. It's
Yeah.
like your village. Like I lived in a neighborhood. Your village. Wow, did y'all have running water? Yes, we had running. What are you talking about?
I did not say it that way. Don't give me canceled on my own.
He's talking real slow. Like in your village. Like yes, I speak English.
Well, one of the guys, Salim, he spoke 4 languages, and I would ask him to say phrases in different languages. It was pretty awesome. The English one was kind of lame because I knew what it was. But
Right.
what about you? Have you had any like crazy jobs?
Not really. I've had a lot of jobs, I feel like, for my age, I guess, but nothing crazy. My first job was, well, I worked at the church for a while, like in the nursery before you though. I was like 10, like I went in like played with children, but
Yeah, she
my
was.
Still.
mom worked there, so I went to volunteer, I guess. And
Nice.
then what are you making fun of me for?
No, I'm not.
Okay. And then my first actual job was at a daycare in a gym, so that was kind of rough. I made $8 an hour. Absolutely horrible, not worth it.
Yeah, because she always be like she worked at the gym. It
Yeah.
wasn't until like 2 or 3 months into it. It's like, man, why do you have so many kids in your gym? Like, I feel like it's mostly older people that go to gyms. And then I realized, oh, she works at the daycare
Inside the
the gym. That makes way more sense. I was like, I had a kid throw up today, and I was like, really? Like, why do you have to deal with that? Like,
Run
I thought
so
you just,
much.
like,
It's
yeah.
a kids gym. They're training them young.
Yeah.
yeah. So American Ninja Warrior, 13
Right.
under.
Yeah. So that was, it was fun. It was interesting. And then during that job, I started working at the church. I was an intern my senior year. And then also senior year, I worked the gym, the church, and I worked at Nothing But Cakes, the bakery.
That
I
was,
did
that was
all
pretty short-lived,
3 of
right?
them. Yes, because I had 3 jobs and I was a full-time college student. I was like, or high school.
And
I
they
don't
wouldn't
know.
let her eat the cakes too. She
Yeah.
thought that was part of the
No,
payment. She was
no.
like, I want no bun cakes.
I ate so many cakes. They had like
Favorite
a rule.
flavor?
Red velvet.
Okay.
Okay, they had a rule that was like, if you like best, because I was a froster. Okay, so they have like your different stations. So they had the bakers in the back, and then the frosters, and then like the girls at the front that would like take the cakes and like they decorate them, put like the cellophane type stuff, like the bows, make it all pretty, and then give it to the customers. And so I was just a froster, but they were like, if frosters like mess up the cakes, like they go in the, I forget what they called it, but it was like some area, and their rule is basically if you mess up the cake, then you can't take that one home, but you put it in like this one area in the freezer and then everyone else can take it home. And right when I started, I've been a froster since day one. Like I make all the like family cakes. Like I do it all. I love baking and like decorating. So I picked this up quick. I mean, it's just, if you know Nothing But Cakes, they have the one design. Like it's not like intense designs. It's literally just piping. And
It's not like, can I have design number 4? It's like, no,
it's
there's
like
one design. It's basic.
You get what you get. Yeah.
Got it.
So, I mean, they have like, that you can do like a drizzle cake, or they have like other, it's generally all the same. And I started at the same time as this other girl, and she was so bad. She could not frost to save her life. And they were like, I mean, it wasn't difficult, but it was just things to remember. Like every time you pipe, then there's like the frosting at the top that will like stay, but you can't have that like down at the bottom because then it looks weird. So you have to turn your piping bag, and you have to like start so that it's like hidden underneath. So just like simple rules like that she wouldn't remember. But now the cake doesn't look cute, so they would always go in like, I think they called it the dungeon, I don't know, but it would go in the dungeon, and I would take so many of this girl's cakes home. Oh my gosh. I'd like fill up a tote bag.
She makes like a perfect one.
Anytime there was red velvet, you'd make her frost it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. I would be like, hey, there's 150 red velvet cakes. Can you do? And she'd at least mess up 20 of them. So then, yeah, she was not very good.
That's a lot. That's a lot
Yeah.
of product.
It was so good.
Because, okay, have you heard of Crumple?
Crumble. Yeah.
Crumple. So it's this cookie place.
Overrated.
Yeah, it's overrated.
Overpriced.
Overpriced.
It's overpriced.
It is.
$3
It's
for a
ridiculous.
cookie? You're kidding
No,
me.
it's more than
ridiculous.
that
Is
now.
it?
Yeah, it's like
Plus tax?
$4.50.
Inflation, man.
Inflation.
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 Thanks,
I
Joe.
went to go buy some for the interns because, like, I'm a good boss, whatever, try to
Right.
treat my kiddos.
Never did that for me.
And I was like, yeah, well, take a lesson. And so they were doing really good work.
I kept you entertained.
Facts. It'd be like Emma would be working on an Excel sheet and like paper, and Sydney would be like, "Let me tell you this story."
I
And we'd be like
would.
entertained the whole time.
You gotta
The
have
artsy
someone.
Stuff. I
Yeah.
painted a lot.
But they were just so expensive. And I feel like nothing but cakes are the same thing. It's like
Nothing but cakes is very
overpriced.
expensive. Yeah.
Some of them are pretty good though. I will, but they
I'm
are
not saying the
pricey.
tasty isn't. I'm saying like,
But
the
but I
price.
just don't think Crumble's even that good. Like that's the thing is that like I'd rather just go get like a
like one of them sugar cookies from. Oh my
Walmart?
gosh.
like I just go to Walmart get some
Yeah.
like
Those little like the plain ones with the
With the-
sugar,
with the-
like
with the
sugar
icing?
They're
cookie,
very seasonal.
chocolate chip. Like I could just do
Love
those
them.
and they're so good.
You know what I love about those type of sugar cookies at Walmart? Because they have like green for St. Patrick's, red for Valentine's Day. Is you know they're seasonal, and you know they're fresh.
And they're so good.
You know, because some of
They're
those
so
cookies,
good.
like
They're so good.
That's how I buy Oreos that had the colors, like the orange Oreos during Halloween. I know those bad boys had to be fresh. You know, the other ones
Or
probably
they're
been sitting
from
there for a while.
last Halloween. Did you ever think about that?
Yeah, or 2 Halloweens ago because
Right.
no one liked orange.
Right.
Oh god, oh god, oh god. I'm not prepared for that.
I did enjoy nothing but cakes though. They gave me, well, I got to take home a lot of those cakes that were destroyed, and then there was this one time they had a blueberry vanilla cake, and it was it was actually really good. And their cream cheese frosting on any type of cake, it doesn't matter what it is, it's so good. And that was my first, like, I think it was like an 8-inch, like my actual cake, because they have the buntlets, whatever, and then they have like the buntinis. So I would always do like the small ones in the package, and then they also have the big cakes, and those ones are a little harder to frost because there's like a pattern to it. Same design, of course,
Yeah.
but like a little different. And they let me bring home my first one ever, and I brought it home, and all my neighbors would sit out like in the cul-de-sac, because I live in a cul-de-sac, so all the moms and parents would sit out there. And I remember driving back my little yellow Jeep, and I pulled in, and I was like, I have a cake to share, and everyone loved it. It was so good. I was like, I didn't bake it, but it looks pretty.
She was a hero
Yeah.
for the cul-de-sac. Because I was thinking, I never worked in the food industry. Both of y'all just mentioned.
Oh, well, I also
Food
worked at the
stores.
winery, which is technically the food industry, but I was a hostess, so
Yeah.
I didn't really work in the food. And then I also worked at Kohl's.
You worked for Kohl's for 1 week.
Still work though.
Yeah, still
still work.
work.
Get a paycheck.
And
you
she was
work.
like, "Ben, it sucks. I'm not coming back."
No,
And I was
no,
like,
no.
"Okay."
Don't twist my story. I was 16 when I started working there, and
I kind of
16-year-olds.
forgot you worked there too.
I always forget because it was. I think my start date to my finish date was within 2 weeks, and I think I probably worked like maybe a total of 7 days. And in my defense, when I started, I gave them my social security number, so they have literally any information they could want to access. I also gave them my birthday.
That's not how
They
it
could have
works.
stolen my identity.
If you tell me your social security number, I can't just like Google that and
but
have
either
access
way,
to
either
everything
way,
you've ever
I
done.
gave them my class schedule, like everything. Like maybe I was a junior in high school. I don't know. Either way, I was still pretty
it was
young.
junior year.
Okay, well, I still had the restriction on the driving thing, so I couldn't drive past midnight whenever I
Mm-hmm.
worked there. And they closed at like 11:30, and then you would stay and clean and do everything until midnight. And I would tell them, I'd be like, hey, like I can stay until like 11:40, but like I just really, my parents didn't really care about the rule, but like if a headlight was out, like if I got pulled over for whatever reason, I just don't want to put myself in that situation. So I used to tell them that all the time. One time they called me, they would still schedule me after that, but one time they called me when I was in class, and I got to my next period, which was like I peer facilitated so I could answer the phone. So I went and looked at my voicemail, and this lady was like, hey, Sydney, where are you? Like, I'm supposed to be training you. And I was like, girl, I'm in high school. I've given y'all all my schedules. I can't come in. I've told you guys every single day that I'm available and not, and the time frames. And they kept scheduling me every single second that I said that I wasn't available.
What do you mean you're in school? Can you not come out? It's like,
Has that been a
No.
rule for a while? Like you're not supposed to work past a certain hour if you're a certain age on it?
well,
Is that
yeah,
like
a
Well, you
certain
can't
amount
work
of
a certain
hours.
amount. Yeah.
certain, okay.
And then the driving thing, which
Because I was about to say like a polo, we'd be there till like 1:32 in the morning,
Yeah.
like doing stuff.
Did you do the seasonal though, like the holiday hours?
No, I did it for like,
Black Friday type stuff.
well, no, I mean, I did it for like 6-7 months.
Oh, okay.
But I was through there. I did Oshkosh Bagosh for
Oshkosh
seasonal.
Bagosh.
So
I don't know what that is.
The baby clothing
it's baby
store.
clothing
Oh,
store. So
nice, dude.
so
That's awesome.
so my buddy, one of my best friends, Drew Eccles.
Nathan working there.
Yeah, one of
He's like,
of
what's up? You hitting on the moms? Hey, what's up,
Why didn't you
babe? What's
start
up?
with
girl?
that?
so one of my best friend's moms
strolling
was
in.
Drew Eccles' mom. Do you remember? You remember Sherry?
Oh, I know,
So she worked there. She was like a
mom.
manager, and she for Thanksgiving and all that, Black Friday, all that. She said, "Hey, I need like 4 or 5 guys that'll work for just the week." And so we were like, "All right." So it was me, Drew Eccles, Marlon Hall, Kyle Wigley, and she put us at different parts of the store. But the thing is, she didn't tell her own son. So Drew Eccles, he's a little shorter. He's not like short, but he's
It's like a
a little
Tom
shorter,
Cruise.
like a Tom Cruise.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
he's hilarious. He's good looking. He can sing. He can
Not a
dance.
Scientologist.
He can do like everything. What she didn't tell him was that she was going to dress him up as an elf and put him on a little pedestal. And if people would come up and sing a Christmas carol, they'd get 10% off. And so we get there and we're walking in. She's like, Nathan, you're over there folding this, running, whatever. Kyle, Marlon doing this. And she looks at Drew and she pulls up this elf outfit and he goes, what's that for? And she's like, you're going to wear it. And he's like, no, I'm not. And she goes, you're going to wear it. And you're gonna sit on it was probably like a 3-4 foot platform. He just stood there with a microphone, and she was like, "If people come sing with you, and you gotta sing, then they get 10% off." So for like I don't even know how many days straight, he would just come in and he had little elf shoes that had little bells, and he would just like walk in and he'd just be like, "Are you serious?" So we'd come in and he'd go to the changing room and come back out and he'd just stay on this box, and we would just like. I wish we had cell phones back then because we would have totally been taking pictures. But he just sat there and just sang the whole time. It was the funniest thing.
Do people go up there and do it with him?
Oh yeah, people. I mean, 10% off. Yeah, people do it.
That's pretty
Wow.
sick. I would love that.
There's on TikTok. There's this guy that started this thing. It's called the Gay Elf on the Shelf. It's this little short gay dude that he dresses up in an elf costume, and like people can rent him to come to parties and just sit on the shelf. And he just sits there at parties, and it's so funny. People make so many TikToks about it.
That's crazy.
Dude, why did I not think of this idea?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I just
In the lane. That would be you.
just going into it. For me, I didn't work in the food industry or the retail industry. I always stayed into the education, youth development. Because like when I was in college, I worked as an RA. I was a resident assistant. I did that. It is kind of a crazy. I don't know if I told you this story, Sydney. I know Nathan probably knows it. There was a cute girl in my college class who was a TA. It's like a teacher's assistant. She was helping out, and I was smitten by her, and I thought she was cool because she wasn't like she was drop dead gorgeous and all the boys were hollering at her. She just had this like cool like mystique about her or whatever. I don't know. That sounds like whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I was trying to like get her to like talk to me, help, and like start a little convo. And I was putting it on, man. I was 1,000% trying to rev it up as much as I could. And I found out she was an RA. And I was like, oh, well, I was thinking about being an RA. And she was like, well, you can't. And I was like, well, why can't I be an RA? She's like, well, you've never lived on campus before. Like, how would you be an RA? And I was like, oh, you let me worry about that. And she was like, all right, I'll see if you make it. And I was like, all right. And she was kind of like little, I think she was being flirty about it. So I was like, all right. So I go look up, and it's like maybe 2 days before the deadline of applications for RA. So I was like, oh God. So I can fill it all out. I get all the paperwork. The next day I print all the stuff. I meet him in the residence life office. Like, hey, I had to Google where the residence life office was because I didn't know where it was. It's in Stewart. And so I went there and I turned it in. It was great. Go to a group interview. And so they have all these group sessions, and I don't know anybody. And all these RAs and have like their resident assistants who are like sophomores or juniors are all applying for it. And I'm just like, what the heck am I getting into? They all know each other. So I just kind of stand out and like I don't over Binergy. I kind of like host it back a little bit. And then I would press it the right time and have like get some laughs and get some jokes and have some great answers. I was a camp counselor, so I know all about how to do group work. I get past that phase to the individual interviews. So I go to my individual interview, and all three of them, there's like 3 people, and the Lord God just like came into that room and was like, gave me the best responses I could ever come up with. And I get this email like 2 weeks later and was like, congratulations, you've been hired to be a resident assistant. You must report on this date, blah, 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 blah. And I also had to Google where that was because it was in some room I didn't know. I didn't know the names of any of the dorms, any of the residence halls, blah, blah, blah. And it was the last week of the semester with the girl. And I didn't tell her. She was like, did you find out? I was like, nah, I don't know, I haven't really got my email yet. I don't know. And she's like, that probably means you didn't get it. I was like, yeah, I guess so. It's called the long game, Nathan. It's a long game. That was in like April, May, whatever. Right. And then the new year starts like the end of July for training. And then school starts in August. July comes up. I find out the room. I'm sitting in there. She walks in and she looks at me. She's like, you mother beep. And I was like, got it. like got the job. And we became like best friends for like 2 years. But but it was really cool. That's probably one of the most fun jobs I ever had. What?
That's true. Another fun job was I did 2 summers interning at a church in Mount Bethel, and that's where I met Chris and Becca, and I lived with Chris for a year or for a summer, and that was so much fun.
Chris wants to do a podcast with me and you. He wants to do it in the morning though.
Thanks
we could do that,
Chris.
I asked him. He said y'all had beef.
It's okay. Yeah.
Maybe what if we did an episode with like you and Chris are in the middle and Nathan on other sides, and we do like a mediation between the two of you because y'all got some
We don't have beef.
Y'all got some serious beef.
I love Chris.
All right, I'm basically calling you farmers because you get so much beef.
She was telling me this past Sunday how much she loved Chris, and she was like, "That's my favorite youth pastor that's ever been."
It's my favorite too. So let's go.
But we used to so. Remember the old structure of the Wesley house, like how there was like a middle room and it was just a big circle you could go through?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So the house we lived in down in Marietta, was very similar except there wasn't a middle room. And Chris's room was like the dining room, but there were 2 doors. And so you had to walk, there was a living room and a couple little rooms, kitchen, all that. And Drew Peters and I lived in a room way smaller than this that was for the washer and dry room. And there was a washer and dryer. You could get up from the bottom bunk. We put bunk beds in there, and you took like 2 steps, and there was the washer and dryer. And I remember living with Chris, and our schedules were so different because interning at Mount Bethel, there'd be like 2 interns for the children's ministry, 2 for the middle school, 2 for the high school, 2 for the college ministry, and we'd all cross-pollinate in some ways, but we all had different areas, and so we'd go, like I'd go on a lot of the high school trips, and it was just a lot of different stuff. But there was one time Chris came in, and Drew Peters and I were watching Lost on a computer.
That show.
Lost is great.
Never
and
seen
we were.
Yes, you have.
I have not.
Yes, you have.
It's so good. Well,
I've never watched Lost.
Yes, you have.
No,
well, either way,
right.
we were watching it on this on the bunk bed. Drew Peters was on the bottom bunk, or I was on the bottom. It doesn't matter. We were both sitting on the bottom bunk. And Chris came in. It's about like 12:31 at night, and he came in to do some laundry. He comes in. And he was like, "Hey guys, you don't mind if I do some laundry?" Like, yeah, that's cool, Chris. Like, come on. And he puts in the washer, and he looked at us. He was like, "What are y'all watching?" We're like, "Lost." And so the 3 of us sat on a bottom bunk together, and we watched like an episode or 2 of Lost while we were waiting for his clothes to get through. But we used to get in so many shenanigans. We lived off of Lower Roswell Road, which is a pretty busy road down in East Cobb. And where the house is, there's a house across this road. It's a 2-lane road, but it's busy. A house across the road, and then a water treatment plant behind it. And Chris and I would sit in the front yard with our drivers, and we would sit there and wait, and we would look down the street and be like, "Any cars coming?" No. And we would just hit golf balls over the next house into the water treatment plant. And we would just do that for hours.
That's dangerous, Nathan.
It was we never hit anything. It was great.
Dude, this may even be worse because one of my favorite jobs is when I got to be a 4-H counselor on Jekyll Island. I got to live in Jekyll for like 3 months. And we went to, Chris used to do this thing. I don't know if they all still do it. We like little canoe next to a Shasta. And then you would pause the canoes, pull over. Pull over is the right word. You
Sure.
go to the bank.
Sure. We'd pull over. We put on our blinkers and we'd move over.
Make a left turn. There's oncoming traffic.
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
just
all right.
it's crazy down
I
there.
pulled over. I park it. Anyways, I anchored the boat, and we would go get golf balls from the bottom of the river. There was so many of them, and she's on her phone while we're
I'm
podcasting.
listening. There's so many of them.
You're Snapchatting.
I was not.
You're
That's
literally
just where we're
Snapchatting during the podcast.
She's got
Give me
to
your
keep
phone.
some streaks
You
going.
literally
Give
were
me your
on
phone.
yours earlier.
She has to
No,
keep
I
streaks
didn't-
going.
I
I didn't
not
do
on it.
anything.
You were
You're
Snapchatting
you're
on the
talking about
podcast. We're on a
blinkers
visual
boats.
thing.
You're talking about blinkers on boats. Pull up 3 episodes ago, 15 minutes in, you were on your phone.
That was not true.
Okay,
I cut it out.
keep going because I'm intrigued now. You got
Yeah,
me
keep
hanging.
talking about your
Well, we got
boats.
golf balls from the. Fast forward, I had a giant, like almost bucket full of them, and on the weekends we would go. And Jekyll is not very popular. Like I say, it's very popular. It's not very populated. It's not like there's tons of tourists. Like if you go to Tybee, there's tons of families there,
Yeah.
tons of tourists, and they're a touristy island. Jekyll is kind of not touched by the tourists. You know, they have a little bit on the in island because you go to the historic areas, get some ice cream, blah, blah, blah. But the beaches were pretty secluded. And we would get the golf balls and we would just crush them into the ocean. Just I wish I was probably killing a bunch of sea turtles
Oh my
now that I
gosh.
think about it. But it was so much fun. We would just go crazy. We would
orcas?
hit them. Orcas, killer whales, they can handle it, you know. Maybe a couple dolphins.
Right.
I do love sea turtles. I don't want to kill sea turtles. Maybe a jellyfish. Maybe I kill a jellyfish. I don't know.
Have fun with them.
I make it
Kill them
cancel.
all.
Kill them all.
Yeah,
We probably need them somehow.
somehow.
But and the other part too. Oh, okay. I gotta tell this story. So on Jekyll Island, we were going, and there's a lot of bicycling that happens on Jekyll. Are you off your phone? I want you to make sure you listen to this. Okay.
You just took.
So
We were going, and there were a lot of bicycles. I love when you get into your own stories.
listen, because it was so much fun.
Right.
So we're bicycling, and Shakia and like Catherine, I think it was, they were in front of us, and then Dowdy and I, we were kind of in the back, and it's just the count. We're just hanging out. It's like a Saturday. We're bicycling like doo 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 doo, and we see them. They're ahead of us, and we see them stop, and they're waiting on us to catch up. So we're like, okay, we'll catch up, and then they go and like freak out, and they just like take off. I'm like, all right, and they're just like, what the heck? And Dowdy and I are like, what's going on? So we get to where they are, right, and we're like kind of tired, like what in the world are they freaking out about? I turn, like if you're Dowdy, like you're in your bike, I'm me right here. And I exaggerate sometimes.
Right.
This is not exaggeration. Nathan is a 6-foot alligator, like out of the water on its legs. His mouth was not open. I won't be like he was trying to bite me. I was like, and Daddy, like at that time, Daddy kind of looked too and was like, ah! And so we took off. I've never biked so hard in my life
Right.
to have an alligator that close to me. Like, it freaked me out.
Stranger Things on an island.
Stranger Things?
Yeah, because they're always on their bikes and they're
Oh.
running. Oh my god!
I was thinking, like, when did 11 have to kill some alligators? She's
I
like,
did not watch that season.
it's like, "Rah." It's like, I got it. The Demogorgon's an alligator. Well, and there's also, too, there's a water park there called Summer Waves. And we literally got paid $8.25 an hour to be at the water park for 6 hours.
More than me at the gym.
It was fantastic,
That sounds
yeah.
really
And all
fun.
I did was to ride the lazy river, and we were at the top of this one this water slide, you know, whatever. We're on top, and this kid points, you know, because there's like campers from the camp. They're like, Ben, is that where we canoe? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly where we canoe, right there. And like they pointed at it. He goes, is that an alligator next to the canoes? And I looked.
Yep.
Yes, that is an alligator next to the canoes. I did not know that was alligator infested water. I've never fallen out of a canoe. Like it was alligators. Everywhere. It was awesome.
I'll give you probably one of the best jobs I ever had. It was for a week, and it was my family goes on family vacation to Florida every year, and I was like 14 or 15, and one afternoon, this guy, we weren't. Like we never stay anywhere that is like a resort that puts out flags or anything like, but it was right next to where we were or something. I'm not really sure how it came about, but at some point I made connections with like the lifeguard guy that worked there, and he was like, "Hey man, if you if you'll in the morning and at night help me put out all the flags and like the cushions, I'll give you like $20 a day. So I was like, sure. So I'd wake up. I was already up in the morning. So like when I'm at the beach, I'm at the beach. So every day I would just help this dude. Like, and mainly I would do it. And it would take me like 15, 20 minutes. And I made $20 a day for like 5 or 6 days in a row on family vacation. I know it's not like an official job, but he was counting on me, and he would like by the end of it, he never like the first couple days.
Where is he? Where's the boy I hired?
The first day,
running shoes, going out on the beach. I'm here.
My streetwalking shoes. I got
the first day he was like, all right, so you go there, and the key's over there to unlock because they'd put it on a box like right in the dunes, and then I would take it out. But by the second day, I guess he'd sleep in a little bit or whatever, and then whenever it was getting like at a certain time in the afternoon when you don't need it anymore, he would like, I'd just look at him, he'd be like, yeah, you can put him up. And so I would just put him up when I wanted. Like, this guy didn't know me from Adam, but he was just, and he'd come to me and be like, here's $20. I'm like, for literally like 20,
How much
20
is
30
he
minutes.
making?
That's
where
what I was
he
about
can
to
pay you
ask.
$20?
He must have, well, the thing is, he was probably hired by the resort to do multiple things. And so that was probably a part of, like, he wasn't just the umbrella guy. Like, he did
Right.
other things.
Yeah,
so he was probably, and it was probably.
He made $21 an hour and just gave you 20. Like,
Well, he was probably doing something, like, it was just, he had a bunch of different things. He was just like, here's $20. I was like, sweet, man.
that's
so
sweet.
I was on family vacation doing nothing
Yeah.
but, like, being in the sun, hanging out, eating, and freaking making $20 a day.
Well, that was kind of like when I got the text message from a coach. It was like, hey, do you want to be our soccer announcer? And I was like,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
sure, yeah, I'll do that. And then I got paid $20 a game. And then, it was Peyton. Peyton's the one that recruited me, not the coach. Peyton recruited me, and I got paid like $20 a game. And then I also got like free concessions, and it was awesome. Like, it was so much fun. And the girls' soccer team at Lumpkin is so good. At least I guess they still are. I don't know.
There's still, as far as I know, at least as of 2 weeks ago, they were number 1 in the state right now. But I don't know if that's
Wow.
changed.
Dude. Well,
And the guys have actually gotten good.
Have they
This
really?
season, they've gotten like a lot better.
Well, I might have to go check them out because it was, in fact, that's a little bit of the birth of this Great White Buffalo podcast. Is because I wanted to do podcasting for a while, but I just didn't know like how to get started or how to do it. It's just not my forte, and I'm still learning about each and every aspect. Now we're doing video on YouTube, so I'm learning all the
Fancy
stuff.
lights.
The fancy lights. I hope y'all like the lights. Shout out to Nathan for bringing those. But one of the guys, producer Matt, and I mentioned producer Matt on the first like 4 or 5 episodes, and then I kind of stopped making the gag joke about producer Matt being behind the camera. But he was one of the kids that would work the technology aspect of the scoreboard and stuff like that, like the advertisements. Who did the advertisement stuff, and I would do the scores and the time and then the announcements. Anyways, he was a technology kid, and I was like, Matt, could you help me? And so he and I actually in the booth with an announcer box planned out the podcast studio. Like we set it up almost like, you ever seen The Founder with the McDonald's movie?
No.
Okay, well, they talk about how they restructured McDonald's to make it the most efficient. We were doing the same thing for the podcast. Like, how can we make this more efficient and do all this stuff? It was fantastic, and that's kind of where all the stuff happened. And then we would announce soccer games. Sorry, I could go a whole tangent about this. So, like, if they're ever going to make a movie about this, that has to be a scene in the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
This goofball, because that's where I was. And I made some crazy announcements. I would just make up stuff.
Can I just say, I went to one of those games. I went to the Lumpkin one. Our whole church came down.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, when Josh Scarf played for Central. Yeah.
They had the best pickles there. So the fact that you got free concessions, dude, I would have done that for days.
Lumpkin's known about their pickles.
They had such good pickles.
We'll have to ask Peyton
That's good to
tomorrow
know.
at lunch.
Yeah, what
pickles
did you
What
get?
pickles?
He's like, I went like Walmart.
They were so
Yeah.
good. still
Homegrown.
remember it. Homegrown, I bet.
Yeah. There was one announcement I did, and maybe I can like put it in the Instagram post. So it'll be out of context unless you listen to the episode. But there was one I was like, Morton, the Rocket Fagan scored. And I was like, I've only seen 2 miracles in my life. once in 1980 when we beat the Russians in soccer, and tonight here in between the pines. Like, it was just, and I'm saying this.
I remember you posted that.
Posting that,
Yeah.
and like, I was just like, I would just say I would say like, Gracie Brass Knuckles Leasing. It's like, what? Like, why do they call her Brass Knuckles?
Like,
The
they
other,
don't.
you can see the other like coach on the other team, like we gotta watch out
I
for this
just love.
kid.
I just
Like,
loved you'd get so animated, say the random stuff. Everyone's laughing, and then like something that the other team would score, or you'd be like, and Lumpkin 7 and North Dakota 2. Like you would just like it just real quick, and it'd be like subbing in, and you'd say like these crazy nicknames, and you'd be like, and number 4 for the other team. Like you just say random things.
I'll be like, because when Lumpkin scored, I'd be like, go Lumpkin County score. It's like, blah, 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 blah. And then if another team, let's say it's Dawson County scored, I'd be like,
Go for Dawson.
go Dawson County.
Yeah.
That was it. And even the fan from like the Dawson
other
County
side,
people would
yeah.
kind of like laugh a little bit,
Yeah.
like, all right, we get it. And there was one time, one parent got kind of mad from the other team. It was kind of like bad mouthing, and I was like, "What? Like, what are you gonna do?" And then one time I was a little snippy to the referees. I had to like cool it myself. I was like, referees is sponsored by Dawson County Alumni Association. Like, stuff like that. I'd be like, stop it, man. That's how you get fired.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. It's a fun gig. So what about you? Now we're talking about jobs.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of on the end on this of this podcast. And one of the things I thought might be fun, reminiscent, talking about fun jobs, is if you're on YouTube and you're watching this, comment below some of your favorite jobs, some of your most unique kind of cool jobs that you had probably early on. Or if you're on Instagram and you want to do it, put it on there, whatever. We want to know. We want to know what your most interesting job was, or your coolest job, or your fun job that you've had. What was something, or what is something that you think is important for you to maintain? Like if you're about to go start a new job, right? Tomorrow, new career, new job, new people that you don't know. What is some value or something that you want to take into that you've learned from the past? Like, I want to bring this into this because I know that will help me create a stronger foundation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was a great question, but
No, I for me is the ability to be adaptable and work ethic.
Adaptable
Like
work.
you've got to be able to. You may not be able to know everything that's going on, or you might have to pivot and do different things. Being able to be adaptable and to be able to. There's a lot of people. It's like, okay, I just want to do my 5 hours, or I just want to do it from here, and you can work your way to that. But like when you first start somewhere, having that work ethic, having the ability to be adaptable, to be like, I have this job, but I'll help with doing this, like to be able to show, because you'll get a lot of value where people will say, man, we got to have them there. And then as you work harder and as you get to that place, then you can say, okay, I'm working 5 hours that day or whatever, because they know that when you're there, you're working hard. They know when you're there, even if that day you're not even working that hard, they know you're valuable and they know that you'll get your stuff done. But when you first start a new place, or whether it's a new place or working for yourself, or whatever it is, it's like work hard and be able to be adaptable to whatever work environment you're in. And it'll, because if you come in and it's like, well, I'm only paid for, 4 to, whatever, 8 or whatever it is, like, it's real easy to be like, okay, well, I want someone that's going to go above and beyond, or I'm going to go with someone that can be adaptable, or that can shift, or doesn't complain, or do whatever. If you're looking for something that's going to last, if you're doing like an hourly job, like I'm just going to punch the clock.
I don't think someone who's like just got a job at Subway is like, I'm going to make these the best, and like I'm going to work extra hours.
Well, yeah, to some degree. The other thing that
Put some
gets
love
me,
into it.
and this is not a part of your question, but this is a side note. I get that you may be working somewhere that's not your dream job. I've done that before. I get you're just trying to punch the clock, get the hours, get paid to do it. But it's always one of those things where it's like, why not do it with a little bit of joy? Like, have you ever gone into like even like a fast food, or you go somewhere and it's just like it's like they don't even care to be there. It's like they're annoyed that you're asking for something. I'm like, that would just be that's a killer right there. That's something that
Right.
you'll bring into every job. It's not like you're like, oh well, I just do that because I'm working at this place, but when I get here, I'll be good. If you can bring in that good attitude, that good stuff, even if it's not where you want to be, that's
Well,
very helpful.
And you've probably seen me do this before, and you probably have too. Majority of the time, when I go to a restaurant, I will use the waiter's or waitress's name.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "Hello, I'm Haley. I'm gonna be your server today." I go, "Well, Haley, thank you for being here today. I'm trying to decide what to get," and it almost seems like, and like 9 out of 10 times it works. Where they're like, "Oh, this person like sees me," like,
Yeah.
and it's like a good. I have a pretty
Yeah.
positive interaction with them, and I think sometimes we as the customer, they're not servants.
Yeah.
They're serving, and so like, how can we look at them and just be kind to them and
Yeah.
and acknowledge them? And I've always had really good. That's how like when I went to Moe's, I was using that Moe's kick for a while,
Yeah.
and they would always treat me well. It's because I got to know them. You get to know their names, you know who they are. They'll feed you. They'll
Oh,
feed
they
you
will.
real well. Shout out to Moe's, baby. What's up?
I've never been to Moe's.
What?
Never?
Never.
You've never been
Never.
to like the Moe's in
Never.
Dahlonega or just
Are
Moe's
you-
in general?
Never. Anywhere.
Really?
Are you lying to the Great White Buffalo Nation right
I'm
now?
Not.
We're going to Moe's. We had to do a we're gonna do a podcast at what was the other place?
Next time we need to get Moe's come over here and
And
have
eat.
an unveiling.
Can we have a
Can
yes?
we? I've been
Let's
wanting
do
to go
a
for
Moe's
a while because
episode.
it's really close to where I live. Like it's right around the corner from.
And we can
Bellamy,
have it already
but I've
set
never
up
gone
so
there.
that way when we get here it's still
Where
fresh.
is it?
We'll
We
go.
don't know. She's like, it's really close to where I live. It's like a place called Dahlonega. No, you don't. Moe's is fantastic, and I've eaten so much. We're gonna go to Moe's. The Wrong Doug. Ugh. What would you get?
It's the wrong Doug,
Stack.
the stack.
Yeah.
I can only get the stack if I'm like hungry
Yo, bro,
because
I
it's
gotta go out.
right
My
there.
mom gets the Moo Moo Mr. Cow.
Is that the kids menu?
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong.
Wait, so your mom's eating there?
Yeah.
You just haven't.
No.
Do you like queso?
No.
Oh, come on.
Oh, okay.
I had some last night. I had some in my mini fridge. I went downstairs and heated it up.
I had it for dinner tonight.
I bet you did.
Okay,
My chips
okay.
Were like full size though.
Yo, what's up, bro?
Sydney, what's your answer?
All right, sorry.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, for your question a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think ditto, sames to what you said, but also
Say
I think
one word that he said.
he said work ethic. Have your work ethic. Don't just be there to work. Be there to be there.
Okay,
and
all right,
yeah,
all right.
paraphrasing a little bit, but
It works.
That's
That's
great.
it.
I think for me also just like keeping my personality, like kind of like you're saying, like have like I don't know. I feel like it's welcoming for other people to walk in, especially if you're like when I was a host. I feel like when people walk into that, my very first day at Wolf Mountain, let me tell you this. First day I walk in and I went in for like an interview because my friend had kind of got me the job and I went in to go work or for an interview. And I walk in and she hands me a shirt and she says, "Get behind the counter." And I was like, whoa. So she's like seating people, but there's like a little gift shop at the front. So the hostesses like check out people at the front. And this lady came over and she was checking out some bottles of wine. And I was like, so I'm not going to lie to you. This is literally my first like hour that I've ever been here. Like I have no clue what I'm doing. And everyone just started laughing. And I feel like stuff like that just makes people like so much more patient, like to know like this is her first day. Like she's being comical about it. And I had that little tiny room filled because the one girl that was also there that actually knew what she was doing was like seating people, back and forth. And so my area would like fill up at the front and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but people just like found it so funny because like I wasn't stressed out. Like I was like, we're learning
Yeah.
together. Like at this point,
You're being genuine too.
Yeah. So I think that took me a long way. Like that like encouraged me to like want to stay there and like want to have a good time with it.
Yeah.
And just not like, I don't know. I found it funny more than anything because I think the ability to laugh at myself maybe.
Oh yeah. I for me, it depends on what type of job it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I will say some jobs are different. Like I don't know, type of stuff. Because when I was working in the camp world, like the camp ministries, but also like 4-H camps, my big word is kind of like adaptability, but I said flexibility because there'll be some times where we were supposed to do option A, but it's pouring down rain, so we
Right.
can't do that. So we have to do option B, and we have to be flexible and not be like, "Oh, this sucks. Oh, option A was the best. Now we have to settle for option B." It's like no. Like
Yeah.
Option B is great. Let's be flexible. Let's do it. Let's make the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really big part of like just be flexible. And I do that like on the mission trips.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's gonna be times where it's stressful and what we thought was gonna be a thing is not. So just
I was about to say hashtag adapt and overcome because that was, at least for the girls on the mission trip, that was our motto.
well that was a couple years ago, wasn't it?
No, it was this past in New Orleans because we
Oh,
were in
was
the
it?
church and they had their
Oh,
Sunday school
Was that
service.
Mother
We had
Goose?
to Mother Goose. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out
Yeah.
to Carrie.
And we were just little inconvenient things like that. Like they had their Sunday school the next morning and in the room that we were sleeping in. So we had to stack all our air mattresses that we had just laid out, like take all our sheets off, like do all the stuff like that.
She was like, adapt and
overcome. And that was
Get it out. Like,
how we lived that entire week. Adapt and overcome.
adapt and overcome. That's fantastic. I
Yeah.
love that. And then if I was going to do 2, flexibility and kindness. Just be kind. Whatever you do.
Always
whatever career you have. So, well, Sydney, Nathan, I'll say this. Job well done.
There it is. There it is. Yeah.
I did the whole
really
episode
good.
based off that one pun.
I knew it.
I bet you
I knew
did.
it.
No, but for real, I really appreciate y'all being here. Any last words? Anything you want to say to the audience of GWB? Anything that you wanted to say? Any stories that you want to get out, but you just didn't get a chance to?
No, we did great.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, Blue Man Group, I appreciate you / One Man Group.
Right.
And this is the Blue Crew. Blue Crew. Blue Crew. What's the name of the episode? Anyways, the Blue
The
Crew.
Blue Men.
The Blue. Well, yeah, we'll work on it.
The Blue Men.
The Blue
Isn't
what?
that the thing? The
Well,
blue
yeah,
guys?
The Blue Man
but,
Group,
but you're a
yeah.
woman though. I want to include you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really thoughtful of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, now you can
'Cause
stop talking. All right, so
I know my place. I'll be over here.
yeah, remember you're on that side. And
Right.
so what's up, Nathan? Just kidding. Do you have something to say, sis, for real?
No, not anymore.
Hey, what's your creations? Give a shout out to it.
Oh, I haven't officially started. I mean, I made an Instagram. I want to start a business. That's what he's talking about. It's called Yellow Rose. So I made an Instagram, but it's still private right now.
Oh, okay.
Because I haven't posted any pictures on it, so I don't have I'm not following anyone on it. I just want to get a bunch of pictures posted, and then I'll start following people so that they can have something to look at. So
Yellow
yeah.
Rose, though?
Yellow
That's what it
Rose.
is out there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, shout out to Sid and her Yellow
Thank you.
Rose, and thank you for being here, Sydney. I really appreciate your heart, your laughter, and your insight of everything. You are a delight. Naders, thank you for your probation mandatory hours being on here. You're almost done with it. But
You're going to sign off this time, right?
yeah, absolutely, I will. Thank y'all for listening. If you don't already, like our videos, follow us on YouTube. It helps us get noticed more and more people. Tell 5 friends about the podcast. Go tell them. We're all at 98 subscribers. Want to get to 100. So go get someone to
tell my
subscribe to
parents.
us. Oh, gosh. That
Get my parents to subscribe.
Get Joe, Dina, and Joey.
There's your
come on.
100.
I mean, that's 100, right? Yeah, for real. So subscribe on that. And then if you're just a listener on audio only, we also love you and appreciate you. We're on Instagram, so go follow us there for that more content. And thank you for listening to the Grow Up Buffalo podcast. Peace.